S. Craig Zahler is perhaps one of the most underrated American filmmakers working today. Both his previous two films, Bone Tomahawk and Brawl in Cell Block 99, are these powerfully engaging films that perfectly walk the line between being nasty exploitation films in the truest sense and great character dramas in their own right. So I was decently excited to see Dragged Across Concrete. And while it's by no means as good as Zahler's previous outings, I still came out of the cinema having had a thoroughly good time. As with Bone Tomahawk and Cell Block 99, the film is all about the build-up. It takes its time setting up the conflict and the characters, showing all sides of the unfolding events. It's almost reminiscent of Michel Haneke's 71 Fragments of a Chronology of Chance in some aspects. Except nowhere near as good, obviously. Mel Gibson was annoyingly good, but probably the best performance in the film comes from Tony Kittles as the newly released broke ex-con Henry, aka the only somewhat likable character in the film. One of the most challenging aspects of the film is that pretty much everyone is different degrees of awful human beings in it. Vince Vaughn and Gibson play uncaring, heavy-handed and racist cops. Gibson's wife in the film, who suffers from multiple sclerosis, is motivated by good intentions, but those intentions are also muddled by her admitted racism. The criminals are ruthless in trying to make a quick buck, even the ones motivated by decent intentions. It is in a brutal world that the film drops us into. Though not as nasty and tough in its violence as Zahler's other works, its general unlikability more than makes up for that. And yes, I'm using unlikability in a positive sense here. Indeed, all these racial politics and references to contemporary issues such as structural racism and police brutality also add to this. The film has proven itself controversial, as many people seem to think that the film endorses this line of anti-Black Lives Matter, let the police do their job, they're bad people so it doesn't matter what the police do, don't be too nice to them line espoused by the police in this film. But really, I don't think that's what it's doing here. Vaughn and Gibson are shown to be quite racist. I really don't think there's any way Zahler wrote this thinking, damn, look how badass these cops are. And the higher-ups in the police are shown to only care about this on a PR level. The problem is that I'm not quite sure what the motivation is for putting all this loaded content into the film. If it's just there to place these cops on the wrong side of an argument to add to the film's morally murky atmosphere, then that's absolutely fine. It's just that at times I couldn't tell if the film was trying to say anything properly meaningful with all this, other than the usual well-trodden shtick of look at the equivalencies between the cops and the criminals. Anyway, back to the aesthetics. Overall, the film is well directed. There's a lot of nice wide shots of whole rooms, and the editing is decently paced, letting you sink into the scenes rather than cutting quickly back and forth like a certain film that recently won Best Editing at the Academy Awards did. The whole film, in fact, is pretty decently paced. For a film that's 2 hours and 40 minutes long, where other genre films of the same ilk would typically almost never pass 2 hours, I can honestly say I was never bored. But yeah, there's probably about 20 minutes that could have been shaved off the runtime. It's annoying because the slower pace of the film makes it really tense at points, and though the final shootout goes on for ages, I can honestly say I wouldn't have cut a second of it. That being said, there's a 15 or so minute long digression in the middle of the film. Trust me, you'll know what I mean. And it's really great. Acting, script, story, everything. But it 100% has no bearing on anything, and it's just about the length that the film needed to be trimmed down by. So I'm not saying it needed to be cut out or anything, but something around that length certainly did. Overall, this is an entertaining, well-made, murky, dark, both literally and tonally, little thriller that's definitely worth watching if you can stomach the slightly outstretched runtime. If you've not seen Bone Tomahawk or Brawl in Cell Block 99, then I would recommend checking those films out first, as this is not as good as either of those. But regardless, I'm still going to give this film a 7 out of 10.